Spring training is just around the corner, and for the Marlins, there's going to be some serious competition in the outfield.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. You can find me on Twitter, on X, now it is, I guess, at Jeremiah Geiger too. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Go over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, leave your comments down below. I want to hear your thoughts about the Miami Marlins all season long. And today I'm going to be breaking down what's shaping up to be a major competition in the outfield. I'm going to be looking at the rotation. The rotation has some depth issues. They have some questions. And finally, I'm going to be taking a look at two prospects, two players to watch for this spring training that I'm really excited to watch. And they come with some questions. That's all coming up later in the show. But I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. The competition in the outfield, the competition this spring training is something that really hasn't been talked a lot about, but I want to tell you, it is legit. It is something to look forward to. On the Marlins 40-man roster, not one player separates themselves. Not one player that will be in spring training competing for a starting job has elevated their game to a point where you can just lock them in the lineup. There it is. There's a Juan Soto. There's a Aaron Judge, a Jazz Chisholm last year. There's not that player anymore. Jesus Sanchez is kind of the veteran of the group now. Jesus Sanchez. And Jesus Sanchez has some issues. He really hasn't tapped into his power. He struggles against lefties. He's very inconsistent. Who's behind him? Griffin Conine, Dane Myers. Let's go Derek Hill. Troy Johnston is a minor leaguer that has a non-roster invite to camp. He's going to be competing in spring. There are players this spring training for the Marlins who are going to compete and try to prove to the rest of the organization that they can earn a starting job. Victor Mesa Jr. is coming off of injury at one point last year. He was considered, hey, potential call-up. Didn't happen. He got hurt. But that is the type of player who the Marlins have in their outfield right now. Kyle Stowers comes over from Baltimore, struggles immensely. They have a mixture. The Marlins have a mixture of older veterans, prospects, kind of making their debut, Griffin Conine looking at you, but haven't really had enough time to prove, do they belong? And that's what I'm going to discuss. What are my thoughts on the outfield competition? And I think it should be a competition. I don't think anyone is guaranteed a spot. If I had to guess, the only player I would lean toward in that direction is Jesus Sanchez. I think Jesus Sanchez right now is guaranteed, as close as a guarantee to starting opening day, to taking right field. Beyond that, though, center field. Are we going Derek Hill, 30-year-old Derek Hill? Are we going Kyle Stowers, who's still technically not a prospect, but comes over it from Baltimore, struggles immensely, didn't really have enough time to figure it out, or did he? That is what we're going to see in spring training. He struck out so much last year. Can't happen if he wants to win that center fielder job. Can't happen. Griffin Conine comes up, shows a lot of promise, shows a lot of power, son of a Marlins legend. But does that mean he's just going to get penciled into left field? What about Dane Myers? What about Dane Myers? Dane Myers comes up in 23. He produces, and at the start of last season, he doesn't make the opening day roster. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, I'm not really sure why he's not on the roster. He proved he could hit, and then he comes up, kind of has an off season at the plate. It was subpar, and he gets hurt. He's out for the rest of the season. So there are some questions with all of these players. That's the point I'm making, which leads me to say, may the best player play. Opening day, I want to see the best out there. I don't want to see Jesus Sanchez start just because he has the most experience. I do think Jesus Sanchez will start because I do think he's a solid ball player. If I had to guess right now, this is how it would look like. Jesus Sanchez in right field. In left field, I think it's Griffin Conine. And the starting center fielder, I think it's going to be Kyle Stowers. Because I think Kyle Stowers is going to figure it out. A lot of people are on the Connor Norby train, and I like that. I'm a big Connor Norby fan. But Kyle Stowers is a secondary piece where this spring training is kind of his make or break for him. If he doesn't figure it out, there's a possibility he never will. He's got to hit the fastball. He's got to stop striking out. His contact has got to get better. Hopefully he does that in spring training. He has to, because if he does, he will be the starting center fielder for the Marlins opening day, in my opinion. If he doesn't, I think it's Derek Hill. Now, the odd one out, Troy Johnston. I'm not counting Victor Mesa Jr. in this because I do think he starts off in AAA regardless of what happens. And Dane Myers, I think, is the fourth outfielder. I think he's the prototypical fourth outfielder, can come in and play, but I don't think the Marlins are going to trot Dane Myers out every single day. They want to give Conine a shot. They want to give Stowers a shot. They're going to get playing time. I liked what I saw out of Conine last year. I did not like what I saw out of Stowers, except for the fact that his metrics are really nice. His exit velocity, his bat speed. Kyle Stowers, all he has to do is just put the bat on the ball. He's got to put the bat on the ball. He swings hard. It's a good swing, but he has to prove it in spring training. This may be his last shot. This may be the last shot for Troy Johnston to prove it. I thought he's done it all in the minors. Make them, when I say them, the organization, make the Marlins have no other choice but to say, wow, he's hitting so crazy, we got to play him. That's got to be his mentality. And if not, I hope they trade him because I truly believe Troy Johnston can succeed in the majors. He's got to get a shot. Spring training is his chance to do it. There are more questions and more opportunity on this roster for competition, though. Not the outfield, that's one. But the rotation is another. I'm going to talk about the rotation depth that this Marlins team has and the questions surrounding it coming up next. But first, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Thank you to FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. Go Eagles. No three-peat. Let's go Eagles. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, now that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. And I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you as we head into a new season for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Be sure to follow on YouTube, subscribe, and leave the comments. Leave the comment section. I want you guys all to be involved as we embark on this new season. And I'm going to talk to you about the pitching rotation right now. There are some questions. There are some depth concerns I don't think the Marlins have an answer for right now. I just don't. I don't see it. Sandy Alcantara is back. We love that. That's awesome. Sandy is making his return to the mound opening day versus Paul Skeens. It's going to be great. But behind him, there's a lot of inexperience. Once the Marlins traded Jesus Luzardo and Yuri Perez, he's still rehabbing from injury. You take those two out of the equation. The experience the Marlins have, they don't have a pitcher who's thrown 100 innings in a major league game. It hasn't happened. Edward Cabrera, Max Meyer, Ryan Weathers, all of those guys have struggled with injuries, struggled with inconsistency, and you're about to go on a 162-game journey. Where are you going to get the innings from? You have to complete 9 innings a game. Everyone does it. Are you going to rely on the bullpen? Because when you tax a bullpen, it just leads to a whole bunch of disasters, a whole bunch of injuries. We could go on and on with that. But with the Marlins rotation, trotting out 4 guys under Sandy who will not have ever thrown 100 innings in their life at the major league level seems a bit concerning. That seems concerning to me. I wanted the Marlins to sign a veteran starter. I wanted to see them get a pitcher with experience. Doesn't have to be flashy, doesn't have to be a star. Get a cheap starter. Get someone to eat up some innings. They haven't done that. And I don't know if they will. I don't see them doing that. They have been adamant about not spending money for free agent products. And I don't see that changing right before spring training. And it's concerning. The injury history that the Marlins pitching staff has is concerning too. Max Meyer, Tommy John surgery. Edward Cabrera deals with injuries, shoulder or whatnot. Ryan Weathers, 60-day IL last year as well. All these guys struggle with injuries. Who's the 5th starter? You could look at it as Adam Mazur. Is it Freddie Tarnuk? Is it Valente Bellozo? Maybe. We don't know. That's what the spring training, that competition is going to tell us. And I'm excited to watch that. But if you tell me right now, the Marlins opening day rotation is Sandy, Weathers, Cabrera, Meyer, and then let's just say Valente Bellozo, I'm going to say, okay, when is the injury going to happen? Because it's going to happen. That's what happens in Major League Baseball. Pitchers get hurt. What's the backup plan? Are you going to rush the development of Adam Mazur? Is he ready? Is he ready? The Padres rushed him up last year. Obviously wasn't ready. Comes over, pitches in the minors, and he's somebody that the Marlins could possibly trot out opening day as the 5th starter. I don't know if they want to do that. Robbie Snelling, when is he going to be ready? He's 20 years old. He's somebody that the Marlins really like, but I don't want to see them rush his development. That's why you want to bring in a free agent starter. So it takes the pressure off of Weathers, off of Cabrera, off of Max Meyer. It takes the pressure off of them to carry load the whole 162 games, to carry 160, 170, 180 innings, because that's not realistic. That's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. None of them have done it. It's not going to happen this year. And you don't want to see them get injured. Signing a cheap veteran starter for Miami would be smart. It would be logical. I don't know if they're going to do it. You also don't want to see them rush the development of Snelling. rush the development of Major. When you're a rebuilding team, as the Marlins are, when you have pitching, injuries is the biggest blow to your organization. It sets you back. It sets the player back. Braxton Garrett. We haven't talked about him today. Braxton Garrett was somebody who would slot in and could take pressure off of Weathers, off of Cabrera, because Braxton Garrett, he's a veteran in the senses that he's been here before, but he adds another arm. He adds another proven arm to the rotation where now it's a void. It's a void. Braxton Garrett would have slotted in right there. And then you could have brought in Beozo to spot start. You could have seen what you had with Adam Major. The injury to Braxton Garrett is a big blow to the Marlins. There's no doubt about that. How are they going to overcome that? Cheap veteran starter. Cheap veteran starter. And if you're listening to the pod, if you're watching the pod, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? What should the Marlins do? Am I completely wrong? Should they trot out Weathers, Cabrera, Meyer, Sandy, and Beozo or Major? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. The pitching staff for Miami got decimated last year. Sandy was out, Yori was out, and then you saw the injuries start to happen. What do you think makes a difference this year? If you're the Marlins, what is the difference from last year to this year? Do you just assume these guys are going to come back and be healthy for a complete season? Because honestly, I don't. I don't expect them to be healthy the entire season. It's just it with pitching, I never expect it. I can hope for it, but I can't expect it. So protect them. Protect your starters. I think you can build around Weathers. I really do. I think you can make adjustments with Max Meyer and keep him as a starting pitcher. I still have hope for Edward Cabrera, but don't throw him to the wolves with no protection plan and just say, yep, we're going to pitch you till your arm falls off. That's not smart. That is not smart. And that was one of the biggest keys for the Marlins offseason to be successful was address the starting pitching. Address the starting pitching. We're going to see what happens. We have time before opening day, but that is something to keep an eye on. That is 100% something to keep an eye on. And another thing to keep an eye on, not pitchers, two prospects, Deyvison de los Santos and Agustin Ramirez. This spring training, they are two players to watch for. Without a doubt, they are the two players to watch for. From acquired from trades last season to possibly starting opening day this season, they're intriguing, and I'm going to tell you why right after this. Guys, thank you again for making Locked On Marlins your go-to source for daily Marlins content. I'm going to be here, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm going to be here right here every single day, bringing you the best news, best analysis that I can, and give you my thoughts on the team. So just hop in. Let me know your thoughts. As always, hit me up again on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. Let me know your thoughts. This is going to be one heck of a journey this season. Can't wait for it. Cannot wait for baseball to start. Once the Super Bowl ends, and that's coming up on Sunday, it's baseball. It's all baseball from here on out, and we got you covered right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Marlins right here. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your pods. Get them. Listen. So, what are we going to say about De Los Santos and Agustin Ramirez? Boom or bust for De Los Santos? That's the first part. Agustin Ramirez, we're going to get to him a little bit later. But right now, Deyvison de los Santos is about the biggest boom or bust prospect I can remember in a while. The man's power The exit velocity, off the charts. Off the charts. He's the minor league home run champion. Hits the ball 116, 117 miles an hour. Dude can swing it. Dude can hit missiles. The issue is when he hits them. The issue is the last 30 games of the regular season last year, when he was in AAA, his chase rate was at 51%. That is ridiculous. You are not touching major league pitching. He doesn't walk. He strikes out and he chases. So in spring training, what I'm going to be watching for with Deyvison de Los Santos, how do the Marlins coaching staff fix it? What are they going to do? What adjustments are they going to make to his swing and plate approach to get him out of that? Because if they can, De Los Santos can absolutely be on the opening day roster. If he goes into spring training and we're looking at a week away from opening day, and you look at the numbers and you really dive in and he's not chasing, he's cutting down the strikeouts, then you're going to be like, okay, here we go. Because he has the power. It's about the approach and it's about the chasing. Can the Marlins fix that? That's going to be one of the big questions of the spring. And one of the players I'm fascinated to watch. I want to see his development. Because if he doesn't, then you're in trouble. You're in trouble if you're the Marlins. Then it's more time in AAA. And at that point, you have to fix it. If you're the organization, you have to fix it. At that point, you're considering that a loss of a trade. And it's crazy to say, but he has to figure it out. He has to figure it out, and he has time. He's young. But in spring training, when you have this hype around him, the fan base wants to see him up. They just want to see him up in the majors. Okay, but it's not that simple. Development. If he develops in spring, maybe the organization feels so strongly about him and his adjustments that he makes that you pencil him in the opening day lineup. Who knows? But if not, go back to AAA and keep working. But they have to fix this, because if De Los Santos, if he develops into what the Marlins think he can be and what I think he can be, then we're talking about a player who's hitting 35, 40 bombs a year in Major League Baseball for the Marlins. The power is there. That type of power is there. We're talking about a player that can go out, hit 260, 38 bombs. He's dry. He's the number 3, number 4 hitter. The ceiling is so high, but the floor is so low. And that is the thing that scares me if I'm part of the Marlins front office. If I'm part of the player development team, his name has to be written in red. It's got to be the focus this spring training. The other player, Agustin Ramirez, his floor is higher. And his issues aren't offensively, but his issues are at a position that you cannot have issues at. As catcher. You cannot have the issues he has at catcher. Because right now, he's not a major league catcher. He is not close to being major league quality at catcher. And I think the Marlins knew that. I think they knew that. And that's why they got Liam Hicks in the Rule 5 draft. He now has to stay in the 26-man roster. If he doesn't, then he gets returned back to the Tigers. And so now they're running out Liam Hicks, Nick Fortes, and going from there. Agustin Ramirez, what's his role this spring training? Is he going to be somebody that can figure it out defensively? And suddenly the Marlins are like, okay, here we go. We have development. We have him where we want him. Maybe a few more games in AAA, get him a little more reps. But we loved what we saw from him in spring training so much that he's up in May. And suddenly we got perfect world, Deyvison de Los Santos, Agustin Ramirez. They're just tearing the cover off the ball at Lone Depot Park. That would be great. I have questions about his defense. And I think that Ramirez might end up being a first base or DH. And that's just a gut feel because the defense was so bad. But that's why we go to spring training. That's why pitchers and catchers are reporting. That is why the Marlins organization has to hone in on player development, especially with these two, because these two can make a huge impact on your franchise. These two players can accelerate the rebuild, where we don't have to sit here and say, oh, we're expecting another 90-loss season, 100-loss season. De Los Santos is that powerful. Agustin Ramirez is that good. They got to work through their issues because at the end of the day, they're both really exciting prospects and they have a lot of questions. But you know what? That's what prospects are. That is the issue. It happens. Players boom, players bust. Remember Lewis Brinson. Remember Isan Diaz. I've seen it too many times. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're going to just be the future of Miami. No, not necessarily. They could be, but it starts and ends in spring training. We're going to learn a lot. And it's exciting. It's super, super exciting for a Marlins fan to have this to look forward to be able to look to spring training and look at individual players and say, this player could be a piece of the next World Series winning team. That's awesome. It's awesome to see. And as we transition into a new season, that is one of my keys for everybody out there to enjoy Marlins baseball to the best they can. Don't focus as much on the wins and losses record. I think we all know the Marlins are expected to lose, and I hate it. I hate losing. But what you want to also do, obviously you want to win the games, but what you want to also do, look at the players. Dive into the prospects. Not just the rankings dive in, go into the analytical side, find out something that interests you about a prospect, find out about somebody who gets called up. And then on the major league side also, there are players who are literally battling for their careers out here. Derek Hill, I mentioned him earlier. He's bounced around from organization to organization. He's coming out in spring training ready to battle. These guys are ready to battle. The pitching staff, man, Sandy's coming back. I know he doesn't have a losing attitude. I don't have a losing attitude. Nobody should have a losing attitude. You should go out and be ready to compete. Be ready to compete and be the best they want to be the best that they can be. Spring training starts so soon. End of February. I'm stoked for it. I can't wait. It's an honor to be the new host of this podcast, guys. Peter was an amazing host, absolutely incredible. And to be able to now host this podcast and bring you guys the content every day, we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about trade rumors. We're going to talk about, the recaps of the games. We're going to talk prospects for those of you who like prospects. Anything Marlins related, you come here. Locked on Marlins is the place for you. And tomorrow, for all the everyday listeners out there, I'm going to be talking about a player I think could possibly take the league by storm. His name is Xavier Edwards. And I'm super, super excited for his 2025. That's coming up tomorrow. I want to thank you guys all for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and go leave a comment. I appreciate you guys for listening, and let's go fish.